Svensmark, he says, the biodiversity here on the planet Earth seems to be a reflection of the sky.
Cosmic rays, it sounds like some kind of science fiction, but it's actually a real thing. It is something that is penetrating the atmosphere all the time. It is penetrating you. It's a very energetic particles. But what you see is that these cosmic rays coming in, and the idea is that this is actually changing the Earth's cloud cover. It turns out that each time there is a change in cosmic rays, it appears that there is a change in the Earth's climate. We have tried to understand this connection for a long time. This mechanism seems to be working even on longer time scales, and I will just show you very briefly that on long time scales this mechanism is also operating. So what are cosmic rays? Well, if you look here, you can see a schematic of our solar system. You can see here the sun, and then you have the heliosphere. This is where the solar wind is blowing out, and all the planets are within this sphere. And out here you have the cosmic rays, and they try to penetrate. Into the solar system. And when the sun is active, it can regulate how many cosmic rays are entering in the top of the atmosphere. So you have to imagine this is the sun, this is the Earth, and what you're seeing is plasma from the sun. These are called coronal mass ejections. It is a plasma cloud that is thrown out with the solar wind, and this plasma cloud, it works as a shield against cosmic rays. So within a week you can have a very low cosmic ray count. I can show you how it looks when we measure here on Earth. So this is days in 2003. So you see here you have a certain level of cosmic rays, and then the Earth is hit by this plasma, and you have a big dip, and then it goes back over a week. So this is what we call a natural experiment with the whole Earth. So what is happening when they enter the atmosphere? So you imagine you have a very energetic particle coming in. It's typically a proton. And then you get a shower that goes all the way down through the atmosphere. So one particle, because of the interactions, becomes a whole cascade of new particles.
This is also what I showed in the previous video, Cosmic Rays Part 2, help us understand our world. Here we have the cosmic rays coming from the cosmos, rummet in Danish, here. And they get into our Earth's atmosphere, and they hit there the oxygen and nitrogen molecules. So when they hit here, in this case, an oxygen, and it splits up, that the spallation splits up, protons, neutrons, or neutrons, and one of these neutrons hit another oxygen, and it splits again, neutrons, protons, and that one again hit an oxygen down here. This is rock.
And these particles, they are ionizing the atmosphere. They are producing new isotopes, and one of the isotopes is what you know from archaeology. It is carbon-14. Carbon-14 goes together with oxygen and becomes CO2, and then it gets into trees. And then if you measure how much carbon-14 there is relative to carbon-12, you can actually, by measuring at a different annual ring, you can say how active the sun was at a certain time. So now you can actually reproduce solar activity going back almost 30,000 years. What you see here is solar activity over the last about 600 years. Here around 1600, you see the bottom curve here is what we call sunspots. So it is magnetic activity on the sun. These first measurements is actually Galilei that made these measurements, but you can see that there are changes in solar activity. There is this 11-year variations, but there's also variations on longer time scales. But up here, you can see the changes in cosmic rays. So when you have very little solar activity, you get more cosmic rays into the Earth. And you can also see that there has been sort of a decrease in cosmic rays over the last 100 years. We can go closer to our own period. So this is the last 1,000 years. We have the medieval warm period here around the year 1000, and then you can see that we have the little ice age. And if you correlate that with solar activity, again, which is cosmic rays, you see again that there is a nice correlation between the two curves. But if we start to look at the very long time scales, then the situation is completely different. Our solar system is located in the outskirts of the Milky Way, and as a function of time, the solar system is actually orbiting the galactic center, and it takes about 240 million years. And in this journey, we come in and out of regions where we have more or less cosmic rays, and the variations are no longer 10%, it's several 100% changes. So if this mechanism is working, you might expect that it could also be an independent test, which has nothing to do with solar activity, that there could be an effect on these timescales. And it turns out, we'll just show you one simple thing. So the changes in climate are now so large that it actually affects life on Earth. Let's just look, I can try to reconstruct cosmic rays as we orbit galactic center, and I can do that from astrophysical data, and I get a result something like this. So this is present, and then we go 500 million years back in time. And what you see here is changes in what we would call the cosmic rays hitting the Earth. But the interesting thing is that now the changes that you have between here and here is on the order of 300%. So these are really large changes. I will show you that it actually fits very nicely with the changes in climate. So what you see here is an expansion of over the last 200 million years. And what you see is a reconstruction of climate going 200 million years back in time. Each of these dots is a reconstruction of climate, and it's based on this kind of shells. So by measuring the isotope ratio of oxygen 18 and oxygen 16, it says something about the temperature of the ocean when the shell was formed. So by finding these in sediments, you can actually then, by making these measurements, reconstruct what the temperature has been back in time. Now the changes that you see are on the order of 10 degrees, so they are quite large. And much, much larger than anything that we are talking about with respect to global warming. So here we have real global warming over this period. If we look at the effect on the Earth, you can see here for 50 million years ago.
So you can see here, this is 50 million years ago, and we have here the Theta Sea, not closed. So maybe this is in Siberia, between Urals and Siberia. And here Caspian Sea, the Black Sea, the Mediterranean, and all over here there are, you know, the sediments. And you can see here also, and you can see here, India was moving up here. Actually, when it moved up here, it created Himalaya. And the sea bed went under, like this. And this one went up as the mountains.
We had a very high sea level, and so most of the Europe was underwater, but you don't have any ice sheets. So it was so warm that there was no ice sheets. If we then go closer to our time, we can see that we have now big ice sheets. So here we have a cooling. So the cosmic rays are increasing. I should say the cosmic rays are this red curve here. So as the cosmic rays increases, then around 34 million years ago, Antarctica glaciated. Then you had some ice sheets. Then it actually, some of the ice sheet melted, and then they reglaciated again.
So you can see now here, the Theta Sea has closed. Africa has moved up. Theta Sea has closed. It's both the cosmic rays and the tectonic plates together that create all this.
But the temperature changes here are dramatic, and the whole Earth is experiencing quite some changes. So the last part I want to show you is that it has had an enormous effect on life on Earth. What you see here is actually Grand Canyon, and you can see these stripes. It's an old sea bottom that you have here, and then you have sediments coming on top of the sea bottom, and you have closely increasing the height of the sediments. So you can actually say that you can go back in time by going down through these mountains. And the interesting thing is that you can measure this ratio with respect to carbon. It has to do with carbon-12 and carbon-13. These are two stable isotopes, but they can actually be used to say how large a fraction of organic material is in the sediments. So if you know how much the organic material is in the sediments, it says something about how large a biosphere that you had at the time. And this is something that has been measured not just over the last 500 million years, it's actually been measured, we have these measurements going back 3.5 billion years. Let me show you, this is the same picture you already seen, just in a different way. This is changes in cosmic rays, so all these curves are from different data sets that are producing this change in cosmic rays. And now I can plot something that has nothing to do with the astrophysics, which is this fraction of organic material buried in sediments. And you see this very, very nice correlation between the two. So it suggests that there is a close connection between these climate changes and the cosmic rays over this period of time. I mean, one of the obvious questions is why? And it's not too complicated. It has to do when it's cold, you have much larger temperature differences between equator and pole. That means you have much more circulation in the oceans. If you have more circulation in the oceans, you deliver nutrients to life. And nutrients is extremely important because life is nutrient limited on Earth and been it all during all times. So if we have a high cosmic ray flux, we get more nutrients, we get a larger bioproductivity, and it gives us a larger fraction of organic material buried, and vice versa. A low cosmic ray flux, we have less circulation of nutrients, and you get a smaller fraction of organic material buried. This correlation can actually be extended out to 3.5 billion years. Let me conclude. We have seen that variations in cosmic rays, they seem to be as associated with changes in climate. We have very strong empirical evidence nearly on all time scales. So we have very nice correlations. We have a mechanism which we have evidence from experiments and observations. I just mentioned that solar modulations of climate may have contributed to about 50% of the 20th century warming. It actually just means that the solar activity is part of the warming, and climate sensitivity is on the small side. And finally, there is these implications, and I've only shown you one thing, the barrel of organic matter. And a very interesting thing when you bury organic matter in sediments, that's the way you get oxygen into the atmosphere. That's how you separate after we have photosynthesis. So you take the carbon and move it down into the sediments, and then you have the oxygen in the atmosphere. So if this is true, then oxygen is of course very fundamental for the evolution of complex life. So it has really wide implications. Thank you.
At the conclusion, I want to add that there is so much, so much to look into. And every time I look into something, I find out, oh my God, I didn't know that. And then it opens up like 100 other doors I have to explore. So it's very, 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 very interesting. And on this note, bye-bye.